Hello, cosmic friends. This is Carlene Saelg with Interstellar Chats. Thank you for joining us. My co-host today, as always, is Kristin Anderson. Hi, Kristin, and James. Hello, James.
Hi.
We're having the gang back and getting right into it. And I just want to say today is going to be a little different for most people because we're going to talk about Star Wars. And the reason the reason we're talking about Star Wars, honestly, is because I'm 52 years old and I'm just watched it this week. I just watched like most of the series of the movies from start in order from number 1 to number something. I don't remember how far I got. Seven. I think there's others as well, but I haven't watched all the ones that are filling in the timelines. So I still have a little bit more to go, but we want to talk about the Force and all the fighting, the wars, the rebels, and the I don't know who they were, the evil ones, right?
The Empire.
The Empire.
Yeah.
Well, they called them different things, right?
Yes.
It was the Empire, and then it was, well, it was something. I don't know.
Empire, but they have different names of the different beings.
So I'm gonna probably get some things wrong because I only just saw it, and I'm not a Star Wars junkie. But I just want to jump in and say, oh my gosh, this is not just a movie series. It's not just entertainment. It was real disclosure on the galactic level, right? This was real disclosure. And the first movie happened when I was a child. And I have not watched them for whatever reason. I just wasn't ever called to watch them. And I watched them now. And it's interesting. My reaction is like, gosh, for the most part, I'm sorry, Star Wars fans, but I was bored for most of it because it was all fight and shoot 'em up, and all of the scenes of the chaos and shooting and sparring with the lightsabers and all that kind of stuff, sprinkled in with the magic of the Force, and the Force being the power of our consciousness, right? What you are able to do with your own sovereign power, and how you can then amplify that when you're with others of a like mind, the Jedi, right? The people who are actually using their powers for good and not for evil, right? So that was I guess my takeaway was they really could have used a little bit more disclosure and education around the Force, what it is and how to use it. But I do understand that it was really just disclosure on what was happening on the galactic level, according to, who's the guy who wrote it? George Lucas, he wrote it, right? And I guess he was downloaded information, or he had contact with an extraterrestrial that was giving him the information about what was happening in the galactic arena, right? Where there were wars happening between the good and the evil, if you will, the positive and the negative, those who are in service to self and those who are in service to others. They do make that distinction in the movies about being in service to self or service to others. Are you raising your hand?
I'm raising my hand. I want to interject here because I think it's really interesting. This is just coming to me as you're talking about this, because you said, they could have used a little more education about the Force and what it is and how to use it. And I shook my head no. And I was like, no, they're not going to do that because they don't want to do that. But there's an interesting thing that I recently read, and I think it was part of the raw material, that there are a certain amount of positive and negative extraterrestrial beings that are allowed to come here and give their information, but they're not allowed to sort of tell you what it is. You have to make your own choice,
right?
You have to use your discernment. So they sprinkled some stuff in the Star Wars, but they're not allowed to be like, this is the Force and you have it, and this is how you use it. They have to say, oh, it's science fiction, and I don't know, you figure it out.
Well, to make another clarifying point, in the number 7 one, I forget which one that was called, with Rey, you were telling me was her name, I forget.
Right.
She finds out that she was not actually part of, and I could be getting this wrong because I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but up to where I've watched, she just thinks she's an ordinary person who has access to the Force, because we all do. And this was disclosure on telling you, you don't have to be a trained Jedi. You don't have to have some special bloodline to be all actualized, activated, and using your consciousness for good, right? Being the source, if you will, right? So what do you think, James? I feel like you want to say something.
Yeah, I think that the whole Star Wars series is a disclosure of the history of our, galaxy for the most part.
Right.
The asteroid belt is the planet that was destroyed in the Star Wars movie, which was Princess Leia's planet.
Did you say the asteroid belt?
Yes.
Yes,
and,
okay.
And according to the raw material, that the asteroid belt was a planet called Malbec at one point, and was destroyed because of warring factions. But I think the whole Star Wars series is really about what happened, and maybe about the abilities that those people really had, which was that they were connected spiritually and to the vibrations of everything around them.
The Force. Yes, I agree. And it is a matter of, we all have this ability, whether we're going to use it for good or we're going to use it for bad, or negative or positive, if you don't want to use the term good or bad, right? So this is why they kept showing the evil one, or the empire having these abilities, and sometimes even stronger, because weren't they saying the dark force is stronger, that it had a draw on these people, which is like you having to decide, use your free will and decide, are you going to use it for good, or are you going to use it for not so good, for power and for control? And that is where people were getting sucked into the narrative of, I want the power and I want the control and I want to be able to rule. And that, because that passion around it was so strong, they had the ability to amplify that. Whereas, I don't know, they kept showing, and tell me what you think, they kept showing the rebel forces, the good guys, not really being able to get their shit together, not being able to come together with their consciousness, with the unity consciousness part, and amplify that. And whenever they did, destruction quickly followed. Right? So what do we think about that? Why are they showing us that?
I don't know. I feel like when the rebels do get together, but I've seen all of it.
You've seen all of it and I haven't, so
I don't want to wreck it for you.
Well,
it's good. But
it's really, it's to me, it's kind of like the law of one. It's really about either your service to self or service to others. And so obviously Darth Vader was service to self.
But he was on the verge. He was always on the verge. Although he chose service to self always, he was always right. He wasn't like 100% there. He was just over.
And I love how they created that in the expansion of the series, because that's not how I came across as watching it the first time.
And the first episodes that they did, he was very evil, right? And it wasn't until the later episodes. I don't know.
There we go.
There we go. It wasn't until the later chapters that you learned that he was on the edge.
Yeah. And I think, follow me on this line of thinking, that Darth Vader and even Ben who is Han Solo and Princess Leia's child, right? The guy. They both are hybrid beings. They're not the pure race of the negative entities. So yes, they do have that positive human spark in them that is the duality. Here's dark and here's light.
Yeah,
there needs to be a balance. So they are needing to choose which way do they go. And that's the ultimate conundrum that we humans have to face, that duality of good and evil, positive and negative, light and dark, right? Which way are we going to go? So it is, I guess now that I'm saying all this, that theme is throughout the entirety of the series of movies, but it's all tied up in the warring and the violence, which was the boring part for me, which I understand fully and completely, was also disclosure for the Orion Wars, because that was literally happening in our galactic, I don't know, arena, if you will, in the galaxy around Earth, without us even knowing it was going on. It was going on. And now we kind of know, right? There's other entities who are coming through for us to know that this stuff was real. It wasn't just a movie. It wasn't just entertainment. It wasn't just science fiction. Right? It was real.
Yeah. You were saying that, well, who said that Star Wars was channeled? I mean, somebody had to have channeled that, but we know that Gene Roddenberry,
Star Trek
did channel Star Trek. But what do we know about the origins of Star Wars? I don't know. Was that channeled also?
Well,
I mean, it must have been on some level.
I think it's
contact, right?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I just watched this whole thing about light language the other day, and he was like, you know, if you get in the zone and you're painting, that's light language. If you are a writer and you're writing your stories and you're in the zone, that's light language. You're channeling at that moment. When you check out as an artist and you're really in that zone of creation, you are channeling.
Absolutely.
We don't know what you're channeling, but you channeling something.
Well, I guess it depends on what you're creating.
Yes.
We are creator beings, but
and it depends on whether you're service to self or service to others.
True. But you know, even athletes experience this, right? Because when you're in that zone and you feel that runner's high, which I've experienced when I was training for marathons, I absolutely felt disconnected from my body. And it was literally like I was floating through the air. And that is a phenomenal feeling. And it's very high vibrational. So that is the force, man. I was using my force. May the force be with you.
Force be with you.
So it is interesting to be my age and to watch Star Wars and see what that whole thematic thing is with the creation of the movies and how they presented it. And now I'm looking forward to finishing it.
As a kid, I really related to the story because I read Star Wars.
So it was a book? It was a book first?
I did not know that.
Okay.
Well, I actually watched the movie and then I read the book. So that's, anyways, the book is exactly how the movie is.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Rare.
I just think that it sparked something inside of me that combined spirituality with science fiction, or I don't even want to say science fiction, just more magic-ish stuff to me is what I felt like the Force was showing, that it was really something that was real and it wasn't just magic.
Well, right. And also because they were at the time that those movies came out, we were still very much under mind control and programming that ETs are not real and that we are the only beings in the entire universe.
Yeah.
And all of the programming surrounding, keeping us from the Force, keeping us from our connection to higher self and our consciousness. So
Yes.
we did see it as magic or something outside of ourselves. And oh my gosh, that seems so amazing. How do I get some of that? Yeah. Fantasy and science fiction, which is not. It is based in real, like we were just discussing right before we pressed record, that science fiction is not science fiction. It is real. It would just had to be presented as fictional to get it past those controlling entities that were in place before in our history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the way that they presented it too, it's just, you're given a lot of information and you get to choose what you want to believe and what you want to take on as a belief, as part of your belief system. And so, for the longest time, it was just not believable. It just wasn't part of our belief system. It's science fiction. It's fantasy. It's children's stuff. It's just a game. It's not real. And that is a huge part of the programming.
And how interesting also that the movies showed us so many depictions of characters that are ET beings that look so many different ways, from scary, and mostly they showed us very weird looking ones and not too many that looked human or humanoid, right? Or mostly just things that looked almost animalistic, in their creation. But again, I guess that was part of the entertainment part of it, but also so many different ones. That was interesting. And I guess there's many. We can't even count how many ET beings are out there.
So Carlene has only seen Star Wars for the first time in her whole life, but she's never seen Star Trek.
This is true.
What do you guys think about Carlene watching Star Trek? Because I don't know about you. There's like a division in this Star. It's literally Star Wars. Like, are you Star Wars or are you Star Trek? Okay, because we're not friends.
Oh, no
way. I'm on the other side. I'm like Star Wars and Star Trek. I want all of it. I love it and I love it all. But I think when you're talking about Star Wars and the way that they depict their other beings as being more animalistic and they're like bugs and just weird stuff, you'll see in Star Trek that
are they more people?
They're yes,
humanoid.
They're more. It's more really like what you think of an alien would be.
Okay.
Like looks like you exactly, but maybe just has like maybe a wider chin, but they all have a wider chin. That's just like part of their makeup, or they have longer arms, or they have pointy ears, or the top of their head is shaped differently.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, but there's there's a lot of them, but they're kind of humanish.
Okay.
Well, I love, so Star Wars sparked my interest, but Dune was the one. Did you guys ever watch Dune?
No.
I just saw Dune, the new one.
That is Dune with Kyle MacLachlan. Sting is in it.
I have to go watch the old one.
Oh my gosh, you guys. I literally
Is it the old one or not the new one? Not the new one?
Because
the new one was visually absolutely stunning. Cinematography blew me away. It was gorgeous. But at the end of the movie,
original Dune is like the one. That's it. It's like it's medieval.
People are obsessed with Dune.
I'm gonna have to make a list.
Medieval. So it's medieval and what?
Meets futuristic.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's so like
suits that they have to wear that like collect the sweat and filter it. so they can drink it because they live in the desert and there's no
Maybe
water?
I did see this. That sounds familiar.
That's just wild.
Okay, you guys, this is so interesting because my information, my experiences with ET beings or off-world beings and all the things has been through my own experience and not movie references or different, reading different books or what have you. So this is very interesting to have the information that I have and yet have some now corroboration that I could have had like for years, but it's very interesting, isn't it? What do you think?
I'm kind of really excited for you to watch Star Trek and like the movies, not the old stuff, because I feel like the movies have done their beings so well. And I would just be interested to see which ones you pick out as like, oh, that is what this one looks like. That is what this one looks like. That, you could probably pick them out.
Yes, I'm making a list right now.
Right?
Making a list of what I'm going to watch.
Yeah, that's cool. That's pretty cool. We'll have to revisit this conversation again.
We sure will, because the Force is available to everyone. It is not just a Jedi trick, mind trick, right? A Jedi mind trick. That's what they call it.
Yes.
It is not a Jedi mind trick.
This is not the droid you're looking for.
You will leave and drop your weapon.
You will leave and drop your weapons.
Anyway.
You will like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Yes, we would love you to be a frequent visitor to Interstellar Chats and listen to our antics and our stories and interviews, because we do have something to say and we want you to join the conversation with us, because we do find all of this time right now to be fascinating, and the disclosure is essential. So please do share it with your friends and family and whoever you think it will resonate with, because we love you and we want you to remain in the Force. No, I'm kidding. But well, yes, I mean it for real.
Yes. Download it. And
Be
use
it.
Be it, feel it, love it.
Direct it, command it.
In love.
Yes. For the good. Okay, so thank you. Thank you for listening. We appreciate you. Thank you for being with Interstellar Chats, and we will see you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.